Hello, my name's Alex from the Advent Label Applicator Company. This is going to be a video of an Advent 200, our plain paper labeler, labeling your containers right here that you sent. We have 3 different types. It's a it should be a fairly straightforward application. We've already tested it with this larger container, and you can see even with the unusual ribbing that you have on your plastic containers, the Advent does a fairly nice job. So I'm going to do this like little point of view video so you can see how the machine works. I might not do all 3 containers. The 3rd container has the label in the wrong copy position. I might run it, but I didn't want the video to be too long. As you can see here, we have the machine. It has a heater that's been on. Needs to be on for 90 minutes before the machine will turn nice and freely. When it's ready to go, you just turn it on. You can see it spins nicely. We've already adjusted the carriage. We could accommodate different diameter containers, anywhere from about 1 inch to 12 inches in diameter, just by turning this knob right here. We've already done it for this container. And most importantly, we have a carriage system that allows you to move these supporting tires in the front and these stainless steel collars in the rear left and right, so you can get the high points to be cleared. And that's what we're doing. We're allowing this ridge to be cleared, and the recessed label panel area is where it's being supported. Okay, so that's the key feature. And of course your labels are in copy position 3, so we have this nice removable shoulder that allows you to clear any tall containers. Of course, we have the standard overhead pressure arm to allow unfilled and light containers to be used in the machine, no problem at all. So I grab my stack of labels. I have my guides here. You can see we're running it towards the bottom of the container. We have 3 pickoff points that we could use. So essentially, you want to grab your stack of labels. I'm just going to fan them forward and put them in between these guides right here. And you can see it has a nice little step pattern towards the rear. You want the top label coming off first. You might want to fan them a little bit, but essentially your machine is ready to go. So we're going to grab a container. This is unlabeled. I just insert it into the rollers. So I just let the rollers grab it, and then it will guide it into place. Now we can't use this guide over here because this container is too tall. So you just want to keep your hand up against the top of the container to push it up against this guide. You can see it does a really nice job, almost a perfect overlap. It's usually rated within the 1/16 of an inch. You can see we're right in those ridges very, very nicely. So let me go ahead and continue these. Puts a single label on only. And you could probably average about anywhere from about 24 to 25 containers a minute. If you're really, really fast, I've seen people approach speeds of about 30 containers a minute. As you can see in here, we're skipping the glue, putting a skip glue pattern on this label automatically. So it's only putting glue on the edges. It's a very, very secure overlap. It's very hard. You have to tear the label. And you can see we're only putting about 2 inches of glue on the leading edge, and then about 3/4 of an inch on the trailing edge. You can see we have excellent adhesion. Just go ahead and throw that label aside. And if you need to relabel, same container, and you can see puts it over the old label just perfectly. Looks fantastic. Alright, so those are the larger containers. Doing a changeover should be fairly straightforward. Again, you just pull your stack of labels out. Grab your new stack here, and it looks like they're about the same size. If they're not, just go ahead and open up your guides to simple thumb locks. Okay. So these labels will begin to curl from the heat. So I'm just going to put this one aside. Remember, you want to grab your stack, kind of pinch it, and then just go ahead. Make sure that they're down. And as you can see here, I can use the same container and we'll just make sure that they're feeding correctly. And you can see that label goes on very nicely. So we're going to go to the correct container. I believe it's this one right here. We're going to check to make sure our setup is the same, and it isn't. So there's a couple things we could do. You can move the labels left and right, and in this case, because we have unusual ribbing, I'm going to keep the labels in the same place and then just make the adjustments, the appropriate adjustments. So this is a smaller diameter. Move that guide out of the way. I'm just closing up, making sure that's supported by both sets of rollers and not touching the finger bar. The finger bar is what deflects the label. And sometimes what I'll do, I'll feed a label down just to see where it's going to be going. And then I can make the appropriate adjustment. So in this case, this container has different ribbing. It looks like we're going to have to move everything over because this guide right here, I can only go this far. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is make those adjustments, and then we'll come back. It'll be a little tedious, so I'll just simply make the adjustments and then we'll come back and I'll show you what I did. Okay, I'm back, and it was fairly simple. What I had to do, you can see I moved the overhead pressure arm here away, is I just had to slide this roller to clear this ridge right here, and then I moved the stainless steel collars over to get it in the center line. So that should be fairly good. The only final adjustment is I have to do my overhead pressure arm because it's not touching. We changed the diameter. So I take my Allen wrench tool, which comes with the machine, loosen, slide it. You want to make sure it's sitting on it. Then you just want to tighten it with a little bit of a gap right there. And what that allows you to do is puts pressure on it, and you don't have to lift it up each and every time. And I'm just going to test it. And you can see this container is jumping up quite a bit, and it looks like it's deformed a little bit. So let me go grab another one. I don't know if it was sensitive to the heat, or these are just, fortunately they look a little damaged. I think they're just oval in shape, which is kind of interesting. It'll be, we'll have to see how it runs in the machine. This one's much smoother, so I don't know if they were damaged in shipping or not. But we're going to go ahead, we'll just set it up as best we can. So I'm going to grab my stack of labels. Again, these labels seem to be very, very sensitive to the heat. So when you're not using the machine, definitely take out the stack. Let me go ahead, adjust that guide. Let me just turn it off. Let me just make sure it's going to go in the right place. Again, what I like to do, it's a little bit too tight. Let's push it through. Okay. So I have it down. Nope, I'm completely off. You can see it's going to hit that guide right there. So I just have to reset everything. Take this out. I don't want the heat distorting it. pinch my rollers. And the idea is that when you do first time setups, you're going to figure out where things need to go, especially when you have a recessed label area. So what a lot of customers would do is once they get that set up, they'll make little witness marks with a marker or a sticker just to have everything set up correctly. So you could do changeovers fairly quickly. So let's go ahead and see where that goes. I think that's going to be fairly good. Looks like this label actually is on the tight side as far as hitting these ridges. So I'm going to back this up and see where we are. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and insert. Okay. You can see this container is jumping up quite a bit. And I got to figure out why that's happening. Is it from the distortion? Or is it I just have something wrong with the setup? You can see I got a label that went onto the rollers. Just pull it off. Pull that label away. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do is take the labels out and just see how I could try to minimize this jumping. Yeah, I think the problem is just some of them are distorted from the shipping or from the heat. So I have that one good one right there. So I'm going to go ahead and try this again and see what we could come up with. Ideally, you want to make sure that the rollers are nice and clean. The machine comes with a can of solvent to wipe down the rollers in case you have a misfeed like that. So this is the good container. I'll go ahead and insert. Okay, partial feed, just reinsert it, and then that label should go on nicely. You can see that we're a little bit on the low side, so you could accommodate that a couple different ways. You can move the container left or right, or the labels left and right. In this case, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I have a little bit of room here, so I'm going to move it, guide over, and I'll use the same container, and we'll see if we move the label up. And you can see there, I went, whoops, gotta remember where the camera is. I aimed it right onto that ridge, so I need to move that back up a little bit. I think we're getting close. I'm going to tear these labels off. You can see, good adhesion with an automatic skip glue pattern. And that pattern you don't have to worry about. That's automatically adjusted. So let me go ahead and throw those labels away. And then we'll go ahead and insert. And you can see that went on almost perfectly. Looks like it's really well aimed. We'll go ahead and do it again. And fairly good. Now this bottle is a little tricky. I've noticed that when I insert it, how my hand supports the top or keeps it pressed up against this guide is really key. So I imagine your operator will get comfortable with supporting that container, and then the better touch that they have, the more accurate this will be. But you can see it was working fairly well. What I'm going to go ahead and do is try to find some other good ones. I'm going to turn the timer down to 0 so it won't feed a label. And I'm just going to insert these and see how they spin. This one's spinning really smoothly. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the timer up to 3. That's your label feed timer. You can see that one was just dead on. The label clearances are a little bit tight. I could probably move it down 1/16 of an inch, but looks fairly good. This one's rotating smoothly. My timer is a little bit on the short side. I should probably increase it to closer to 5. That's typical for most labels. What that controls is the amount of pre-feed. We just want enough of the label to be fed out onto the spinning container. Then the spinning motion pulls the rest of the label on. Okay. See if I can find another one. This one looks pretty dented. Yeah, these two are not very good. I'm going to just go ahead and try it. This one has a big dent right here. You can see I'm getting a little bit more familiar with the container so I can support it a little bit better, and you can see I got that on there really nicely. I imagine the containers you have won't be damaged from shipping, so it should be fairly straightforward. And that's probably the key element to this one. I think it's just too difficult. It looks like it got distorted from the heat, so I'm going to go ahead and put that aside. And we'll just get another smooth one again. Again, just insert it, keep it guided, and you can see that label goes on really, really nice. So, as you can see, I'm getting better with these containers, and that's what will happen with your operator. You'll just get familiar with the small adjustments and be able to work the machine. Much like shooting 3 throws. You just become familiar with the touch, and then you could get very comfortable putting the containers in and out of the machine. This is our final label. This label was a little problematic because it's in the wrong copy position. You have this uncoded area, and that would put the label on this side. And you could switch everything to way over here and run the label, but ideally there's no reason why to leave this uncoded with a hot melt glue. So ideally you would just have the coating go all the way and just correct the copy position. Have it cut in copy position number 3. I'm going to go ahead and put the labels in. If you did need to switch everything over, we have 3 points. You can move the labels down onto this side and move all the rollers, essentially flip it 180 degrees. The only problem with that, it probably takes about 5 to 10 minutes. So ideally you would want to have all of your labels in the same copy position so you can make easier changeovers. I'm just going to put one label in here just to see, to help me guide my setup. You can see I can move that down. You can see I have the stainless steel collars matching the width of the label, which is the ideal setting. As long as you match the width, then everything should be fairly straightforward as your adjustments. So this is where I think the label is going to go. So I just move, it's a thumb lock, and just move it slightly over. And you can see on this guide, since I can't use it, I just want to put it in an open area that I can move it out of the way. Looks like it's the same diameter, so we don't have to use the carriage knob to adjust for the diameter. And you can see the rollers are clearing all the high points. That ridge could be a problem, but you can see that we have good clearance there on that white tire and the stainless steel collar. So as long as they're matching front to back, it should be fairly easy. Overhead pressure arm is, we didn't change the diameter, so we just leave it as is. And I could go ahead and pull that label out. And then I could just insert and see how it spins. You can see this one has a little bit, again, it's jumping slightly. And that, because I don't know if there's a flat spot here. It does feel like there's a flat spot. And again, I don't know if this one has become distorted. So I'm just going to put the labels in. Let's try another one here. Yeah, see, this one's much smoother. So again, some of these have been distorted. And you could probably get a label on them, but we're just going to go ahead and try to do the best we can here with the limited samples that we have. Put the label in there. This is a good container. Make sure my timer is at 5. It should work great. Insert the container. And you can see that label goes on really nicely. It looks like you actually have this ridge right here. So we actually were running it on the bottom of the ridge, so we could actually move the label or the container. In this case, I'm going to move the container. Okay. And that should still work out well. And you can see we moved it up. So I think that would be pretty much, maybe just a tad more. Do one more, same container, just to dial it in. And you can see that looks really good. So I'm going to peel those labels off. Again, automatic skip glue. You're saving about 80% of your glue by using a skip glue pattern. It's still on very securely. So I'm going to go ahead and insert. You can see that label goes on really nicely. That's just the old original label. Okay. This one feels good. You can see perfect overlap. Looks really good. And let's see here, I have this one. Yeah, this one's the one that has a really bad flat spot. I only have 4 of these. This one looks good, so I'm going to insert. Again, I have a little bit of a touch, keeping it supported. I'm becoming better at that as I'm labeling more of these containers. So they look absolutely fantastic. That one's perfect. And then we'll do this problematic one, see if we can get the label on there. And you can see, just having a little bit of good touch, I was able to get that label on just perfectly. Wow. So what we have there is we've done all 4 of your containers, 3 of your container types. They look really good. You can see there's a little bit of a learning curve as far as me becoming familiar with the shapes. Changeovers are fairly simple. It's just really an issue of moving your supporting rollers to make sure they're not touching any of those high ridges on your container, and then adjusting for the 2 diameters. You can see here it's just that carriage knob. Really straightforward. And that is the Advent 200, labeling your plastic containers. If you need any questions or answers, please call us, or if you have any questions, call us at 800-846-7716, or feel free to get hold of us via email. Thank you very much. And again, these are your containers that we labeled.